Hello and welcome to the Doc Analyzes Anything, where psychology and science meet, and we analyze any and all human behavior, including playing the floor is lava in public, which I think if I was any more athletic at this age, I would love to do, but I am not, so I will not.
What an intro. Straight from Kyle. Love it.
I
Floor is
was gonna
lava.
mention Kyle being sick after we talked about the floor is lava, but Dr. Meow Meow throwing us a wrench and everything immediately, as always. I should let you do it, just so we
your
could really.
monotone voice with the intro just really sold me this morning.
This is my announcer voice. This is who I am as a person.
This is who I am.
Just like I've mentioned before, we need to look up that clip from Saturday Night Live where Will Ferrell is like, imagine not being able to control the volume of your voice, trying to soothe your newborn child. Hush, hush, little baby. Like, that is me in a nutshell. Children cry or flock to me depending on if they like loud noises. That's just the way it works.
So when you're playing the floor is lava, are you doing it in... Wait, did you say playing it in public?
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, we're talking like hardcore parkour. Like, nobody knows what you're doing and you don't look like you know what you're doing. You are just
How would you do it in public, though, for the most part, unless you're in like an area like a park or like... Because you're walking on the sidewalk, there's not enough space or not enough stuff.
Lincoln basically does that every time we go downtown. Anytime there's like a raised surface to walk on.
Our 2-year-old, yes, does not.
Lava, and he cannot walk on the flat surface anymore.
I will say, like, I'm picturing a downtown city area that has like the big round cement balls and like different planters and things that you could just hop around to, or maybe even go into like a lobby of a nice hotel or something. That would be a real fun place to play it.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm just thinking about enough stuff to get like that it's not spaced out too much.
I forget that you were raised out in the boonies where you just have to be jumping from cow pie to cow pie or something. Like
we were not.
How do you think I got in such good physique? Working the cows at 5 a.m. every morning.
I do love the fact that you are probably the only person we'll ever have on this podcast who has been shoulder deep in a dairy cow. So that is something. That is one of those like icebreaker things where you're just like, 2 truths and a lie. I think you could win that one quite often. Something interesting about me is, there you go. So for those who haven't caught on already, Kyle is not with us for the first time today because he is ill. This is coming out just before Valentine's Day, and so he's probably got some love-related illness. Who knows what's going on? Something weird. I was going to go with mono, but so he's not here with us today. And as always, Brad, what do we do if something goes wrong? We blame Kyle. So if he's here and it doesn't go well, it's because he's here and it didn't go well.
Oh.
Now that he's not here, if it doesn't go well, it's obviously his fault for not reeling us in and keeping us on topic. So there you go.
This just made me think with my comment. I was saying blow the whistle. There's a scene in a show one time where they got in trouble and they went to go blow their whistle, but they had a slide whistle. And then the person's just like, what is this? That's all I had.
I have nothing for that. Before we move on, any other thoughts about floor is lava, or should we just really get rolling here?
No, it should be confined to the living room setting.
I feel like I'd break all the furniture in 5 minutes.
Your guys' house would be perfect for it because the Nugget, I guess you can't take your couch cushions off. So pretty much just the Nugget.
Yeah. The boys do like to play like there's a random river and they have to jump over things. But we haven't done the floor is lava yet. Probably should, but we'll see.
Time.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Steven Sparks, and not with us today, Kyle Sturry, but with us today, our often co-host, Dr. Bradley Meow Meow Clements, the love doctor, if you will. And also with us here, my wife, Taylor Sparks, who we're talking about love, and she's a BCBA and joins us sometimes. So it just seems so fitting. We'll keep it a family affair here. Let's keep it all together. Way to make it weird, guys. Way to make it weird.
So what are we talking about in regards to love? Like the chemistry of it?
I mean, that is...
Podcast.
Yes, we're going to talk about chemistry in a behavioral science podcast. That makes perfect sense.
You have to start somewhere.
So that is part of it, though. Like the release of chemicals in the body, but how it is, paired with verbal behavior and other behavior to give us this concept. And we'll get into it a little bit more scientific, a little more thoroughly in a moment. I was going to mention I've done, I think, 5 weddings I've officiated now, and every time this is my one thing that like you can have me like say whatever you want, just put it down so I don't mess it up. But I'm going to include behavior analytic, like scientific explanation of what love is and how to maintain it, just so I can be myself up there. So it is always part of it, and I'm sure they love it thoroughly. It's a real crowd pleaser when you get super sciencey in the middle of someone's vows, you know?
So, fun fact, everyone, I officiated their wedding, and I did also include a scientific fact of what love is. So, it's not
Yeah,
just
I have
him.
no memory of that, but I appreciate it.
He was drunk, obliterated at the altar.
We weren't even drunk. It's just like in the moment, you're flying through it. You don't know what anybody's saying. It's like, yep, I do. Yep, sure. Like the people that try to read their own vows are just insane to me. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? It is kind of stressful being up in front of that many people, unless you're doing like a small courthouse thing. And I don't know. I don't like having to speak in court either because of past traumas. So let's just
I just remember too when we were getting because how I officiated, I led all the groomsmen out. As I feel like a tap on my back before we walk out, and here's Steve just handed me a flask. Thanks, man.
yeah. Yeah. Now, speaking of which, we have a few cool the Doc Analyzes Anything flasks that have the picture that's on Dr. Meow Meow's hoodie there. Uh some skeletons drinking at the bar on it that we're gonna throw up there for anybody that wants to give us some ideas. Kind of, I don't know if we're gonna choose our favorites and send out some swag, or maybe just randomly draw so people don't send in something they think maybe not a great idea. But any weird stuff like when we talked about having to defecate when you walk into Kohl's, send it our way. So we have, it's not even that we don't have plenty of topics, but we want to make sure we're talking about things that you all are actually interested or entertained by, not just the things that come out of my head randomly as I'm walking through Costco, which I did think of a pretty in-depth one that we'll do one day walking through Costco the other day. So
If I might add, we should pick a person to get stuff that has the best idea and
and the
someone that
worst.
has the worst idea, but we don't tell them which one it is.
Sounds good. I think we can do that. We should just let you manage the email and Facebook page, and that way you can really dive into these.
I have no want to do that.
No, it's
That
it's
sounds like
hard
a
to remember
Kyle
to
kind
do
of job.
things. It is definitely a Kyle kind of
We'll
job.
put this one on Leela. HR coming and doing that too.
Yeah, that is our pit bull. If anybody's questioning, and she is an elderly lady, so she's not doing much HR these days. But
She takes a decent amount of PTO, self-care time.
all right, let's get into this. So the topic is, what is love scientifically? But I kind of thought if we started off just with the definition and go into it, it might kind of disturb some of the other conversations we can have as part of this. And so I figured we'd start talking about this idea of like true love. Do you have your one true love out there somewhere? What is that? Love at first sight, that sort of thing, and go from there. So um Taylor and I, because of what we do for a living, I'm sure are on fairly similar pages with some of these things, and because we talked about it throughout the years. But Dr. Meow Meow, what is your thought? Do you have one true person out there that's probably in the middle of nowhere, Antarctica, and you just have to go try to find them someday?
Yeah, at this point in my life, with how it's looking for me, they probably are in Antarctica. But no, I mean, like you said, it's a big old sea out there, a lot of fish in the sea, if you use that phrase. Who are you willing to deal with?
I think, and who's willing to deal with you is, for some of us, like myself, is the bigger issue. I'm sure you're just fine to deal with. Not that we ever have any issues with trying to get you out of our house at night or anything like that. But so you're saying you don't believe there's just one person. It's just kind of how you meet up, meld, and work with somebody. Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean by that? Elaborate just a little bit more.
Like finding someone that you're compatible with, that works well with it. You're kind of I can see this being a good situation to be in for at least a long period of my life, if not the rest of my life, versus out there searching for the one perfect person.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel like it's kind of you get to know the people or the person, the individual, and then it becomes like clear that it's just like not necessarily like yeah, not love at first sight. I don't think that's a thing because you're not gonna just instantly be head over heels for a person. You might have like shell shock by them initially and then want to pursue it more, but I mean that will go away obviously in like 2 seconds, and then you're gonna say something.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's think about the likelihood, even if it is love at first sight for one of them, for both people to feel that way simultaneously. You know what I mean? Like the
Mhm.
chances
Yeah.
of that happening, I'm sure it does periodically, but it seems extremely rare. You know, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I've
most
seen
people
it
are
in
not going to
movies.
find that. Yeah, and we gotta be careful too because a lot of the things that we see in the movies that are show like, oh, I'm going to show my love by standing outside your window at 3 a.m. with a boombox. That shit just gets you arrested in the real world. You know what I mean? That's stalker behavior. That is not true love. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's finding one person, first of all, sounds daunting and horrible. And second, you don't know somebody for the first while. You know what I mean? So even if you are love and first sight, head over heels for somebody, you're gonna have them on this pedestal until you really get to know them. They become a real person to you. And that's when you have to like, oh shoot, am I really in love with this person? So I think we'll give you a quick rundown of the true love story that is Taylor and I. Uh, we were on the psychology department co-ed softball team together, and I'm sitting there trying to talk to her, coming up with random topics, trying to get her attention. She gives me like friendly 1 to 2 word answers and has no idea I'm actually interested whatsoever, not picking up on any of the signs I'm trying to throw out there whatsoever. And even then, though, I mean, I wore her down obviously because PhD
It was the
student. She
boombox
was
at 3 a.m.
No,
yeah,
that would
boombox.
terrify me. Also, I was living in our parents' basement at that time, so there was no window
Yeah,
to the box at.
she really loves
She was a
like
Harry Potter character, if you will, underneath the stairwell.
yeah. I literally walk in the door yesterday and she screams like I'm not supposed to be like coming home from dropping the kids off at preschool. You know what I mean? Like that would I'd be arrested and tackled to the ground in 2 minutes if I was just doing the boombox out the window thing. Plus, it's a basement window; it just doesn't have quite the right feel. Uh,
You're standing like eye level with them.
Like, right under my parents'
I'm,
window.
yeah, I'm on all fours, just looking sideways through the glass.
Terrifying.
um, but I always joke that, the slightly older PhD student, you know, research and things I'm doing are to a master's level student maybe a little bit not intimidating, but interesting, like kind of like, oh, cool, that's what you're doing. And so I always joke that I just won her over with my intelligence before she had a chance to realize who I really was as a person. But that kind of, even though that's not necessarily what happened in our situation, that is kind of what it is. Like you have this person, you only see the good things, and then it's as you get to know them, you see who they really are. Because it's not even that they're being fake as much as it's not obvious to you when you're getting those initial that initial rush of feelings. Is that how you felt, Taylor? That
Yeah, I
initial
was about
rush
to
of,
let
oh
me
my
hear
gosh, this.
Taylor's side of the story then.
Yeah, I mean, basically it was that. Steve offered to teach me how to write behavior plans.
I was
I was
trying
like, "That's
anything I
really
could.
cool."
Oh my god.
I was trying
Yeah,
anything I
offered to teach
could
me how
to
to write
get her
behavior
to talk
plans,
to me.
and I thought that was cool. I was interested by that because I was a master's student just looking to gain experience in the field. Um, and yeah, we kind of just went from there, and then we started hanging out, and
I think it's interesting and maybe jumping around to where I was actually gonna, start off with this, but by the time we met also, like I was 30, I didn't want to just see where things go, you know what I mean? And so like it was quite early on where like, all right, I actually remember I was helping my friend move. I'm in a trailer covering or carrying like a couch. I get this text from her, it's like, put it down, and just random, like, are you seeing anybody else? It's like 3 weeks into us hanging out
She
together.
says
I'm like,
that to you.
Yeah, I was in
yes. I'm like,
with a
and her
friend, visiting a
and her
friend,
be-
and my friend's like, "No, you need to, like, ask and make sure he's not seeing anybody else, like, if you feel this way, then you should make sure."
I'm like, no, are you? And she says, no. Like, all right, I guess that's it then. We're dating. And then so she has me pick her up from the airport from California, and I have this discussion. I'm like, listen, if we're going like full into this, just letting a go of all of our reservations, there's no more holding back here. Here's what I'm looking for in life. And so I want to make sure we do that before we get too deep in this. And then we're like, nope, this is stupid. We're wasting our time. And how did you feel about that on that car ride home? Or I think it was at
Wait,
dinner after you got
how
there.
early? So the car ride, I want to preface this, guys. So from our place in Kalamazoo to Chicago is about a 3-hour drive. So how far into this 3-hour drive did Steve bring this?
Not even into Indiana.
Oh no.
We had not even made it
It
to
like,
Gary.
yeah, nope. It's early on.
That could have been an awkward car ride.
I don't do awkward too much. So
Well, I do.
I just, yes, you do. Yeah. So I'm just like, yeah, here's what I'm thinking, like where I want to be in 5 years. This is where I want to see my life, that sort of thing, like in terms of family and, where I want to physically be and that sort of thing. And
Yeah, I leave
Taylor, what
that
did you,
conversation like, "Oh my god, Steve Sparks wants to marry me today. In Gary, Indiana, we're getting married."
so
So I was a
ro-
little freaked out.
there's a lot of roadside chapels in Gary, Indiana, just like in Las Vegas. You just pull over and do it right there. So
Do you think you had like what's the word? A true react, like if he would have looked away from the road and looked at you, do you think he could have told that you were kind of
Mhm.
taken aback from
Probably
this? Like you just
and
like
let's
bug
be,
eyed.
I don't know. I mean, obviously that was like a long time ago, and I was happy to have had that conversation, and like we were talking about it yesterday, that I am glad that we had that conversation, so there wasn't this like ambiguity, this wondering, are we on the same page? At that point in life, like I was finishing up my second year of my master's program with like the intent to get a job and start a career. So it was nice moving forward from that, knowing that wherever like career takes me or things like that, like we plan on doing that together, assuming we're still together, which we were.
yeah, there wasn't the pressure of, and I'm sure I stated it wrong, or just because I sprung it on her, she didn't hear my trying to say this is not saying we are getting married, but that it is very much making sure we are on the track to do so, because at this point in my life, I don't want to just see what happens in a relationship. And I think she missed that part of it, but that's all right. It
I was
was,
just a little caught off guard by the whole thing together. I've never had a conversation like that with somebody before. Yeah, I mean, no.
He started with, "Hey, listen here, listen
Probably.
up, open those ears."
Probably.
I was going to
Probably
go
like
with the
turned the radio down and then was like, we have to have a chat.
I was going to
I've
go
been
with the DMX opening, but I won't do that on a podcast. So
X gonna give it to you.
no, it's like,
Not that one.
no, never mind.
I know where you're going.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Cat Williams talking about eating at a diner with DMX, but that's beside the point. So I think it's helpful to make sure and just put things out there. People tend to think there's a game to play. I have to be winning this game. I have to kind of put like myself out there just enough to show interest, but then allow you to show you're more interested, so then I'm winning. There's all these games that first of all, I never figured it out. But give it a
No, I
stroke.
think like the idea of like playing hard to get, acting uninterested so you don't seem too interested is like this
Yeah,
weird like social dynamic that is kind of exhausting, especially if you have other things going on in your life, which like maybe I just like naturally played hard to get in grad school because I was busy. I was on campus, all day until 9 o'clock, several nights a week. So I didn't have a ton of availability for you, so maybe that worked in my favor. But generally speaking, yeah, I do think that there is this idea of, like, you don't wanna seem too interested, you don't wanna seem too overeager. Um
I when you don't know how or why people are doing these things, so it can be so detrimental. Like, I remember being in like high school, and there's like all these people trying to tell you like, or even middle school. The rule is like you don't call immediately because then you look too eager. But if you call too long, now you're in the friend zone. All these rules that like you're trying to navigate. And as I'm an adult, I'm like, that was just so stupid. Like, just tell the person what you're thinking. If they're not thinking it, might be a little bit awkward, but at least it's you're done and over with, and you can move on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Like, just literally talk about how you feel. That's all. That's really all you have to do.
Oh yeah, because Steve's the perfect person to talk about his feelings. He loves to
I
do that.
I have no problem talking about my feelings at all. The issue is I don't know how to necessarily show my feelings until after the fact. Like someone dies, there's an emergency. I told Dr. Meow Meow he can write an episode where he just rags on me about not having emotions, and we'll go through my personal history and how I got shaped to react to situations before I emote, and then feel it later where there's nobody to witness it, basically. Um, but I think being, just kind of define what you're looking for and putting it out there is going to at least prevent a lot of heartache. Although there are people that tend to just love the game, as they call it, as well. Like I have a friend I thought I was talking to him about, like trying to find someone to spend his life with. And it turns out, nope, he enjoys the dating and the chase and the crazy blow up weird like situations rather than actually being in a relationship. I'm like, well, I cannot help you there because that's like exactly what I've tried to avoid my entire life. So
That just sounds exhausting.
yeah, extremely exhausting.
I mean, I think it kind of is like how we've talked about before in general, that like when you are there's this idea painted in like movies that love and relationships are going to be just this like high electric supercharged feeling all the time. And at least in the experience of my marriage, that is not the case. And obviously I love Steve. I love being married to him. Like we have a really, I think, a strong relationship, but it is pretty consistent. And not that there's not like
There
days
are
that
those moments.
yeah,
Tell us about the banana incident.
No,
we don't know. We're not getting into the
that is the banana fiasco of 2007, 2008, something like that.
I didn't know you in 2007.
All right.
2000
The
like
great banana shortage.
I meant 2017, 2018. Sorry.
okay.
I was a little off on just a decade off. All right. You were living with me rather than in elementary or middle school. A little bit different, but no big deal. No. Yeah, that was just that I was strongly asked to buy bananas and I did not buy bananas. And it is just known as the banana fiasco at this point. Just putting it out there because the banana incident could be something very weird and it was not that
Yeah.
weird. Um, yeah, but getting back to what you're saying, you have those moments that build that reinforcement. I guess we can use this kind of segue into what is love. But if you are having those high highs all the time, that is what you are looking for. That is what love is to you. You inherently are also going to have those extremely low lows, those super high charge fights, the blow ups, the makeups, and longevity wise, it just rarely seems to work out in that couple's favor unless you're like my great grandparents who I wasn't around to see, but supposedly just loved egging each other on and fighting all day long. Like they just lived for it.
But even that, like, you're chasing those really high highs, even when things are just like baseline level good, that's still going to feel not exciting. Not, I don't know.
It is
Does it
it's
diminish the
actually
value of that?
I think it's actually uncomfortable when things are just normal. It's either got to be like I'm feeling this extreme emotion one way or the other, and there's that middle almost feels aversive because it's like, oh, am I losing my sense of love for this person? Or are they losing it for me? It's when you equate it with what you almost think of as that movie Love, that like I can't handle being away from you for 2 minutes. I'm running down the tarmac, chasing your airplane to try to stop it, almost getting run over in traffic, things like that. Now it's like any lull, which you should and would have in any relationship, just a normal, like calm situation, now feels like something's wrong.
Mhm.
All right. So let's get into the science of it. Dr. Mama, you already mentioned the chemistry. That I think people in society tend to think of chemistry in just the way people actually work together, but I think you meant literal brain chemistry as you were discussing that the release of endorphins, the pairing of those chemical releases, the physical feeling internally of what love is. Is that correct? Thanks
Yes,
for
sir.
expounding there.
Wait, was I
Thought you'd
what
go
was I was
into
I supposed to elaborate on like the like
you
drugs that
you
like so
you
I
came
can
you
go
came
into
into this you came into this talking like I thought you were just gonna jump into some oxytocin
oh
talk, like you were just gonna get moving on it, but nope,
well
you're
because
just chilling there, like yes,
well if I
that
remember
is
correctly,
love.
and I would have to go find my the binder that has your guys' speech in it that talks about it. But if I remember correctly, there is some oxytocin, but it's also like epinephrine, right?
At least for that initial kick, yes. And I should have prefaced this. This is probably puppy love he's talking about, being a veterinarian and all. So,
But
uh
because epinephrine is in itself just like what we think of as adrenaline. So when you feel that love and that rush, it is just an adrenaline kick where your heart's going to beat faster, your hands will get clammy. Everything that is like stimulating your fight or flight, like part of your nervous system, is getting triggered at that point. And that's like that rush of love. And that's why you feel that. And so then as you'll probably talk about a little bit, and bringing the other chemicals um, into account that creates a physiologic response. Oxytocin. The only thing I know in oxytocin, I think, is has to do with like is it milk letdown in cows,
I
and then
I
also
don't
like
know, but I hope that's either very true or very untrue.
I feel like
You know
it
no,
what I
is
no,
mean?
it
true.
is.
Like, I mean, okay, so I'm well, I'm not a cow, but, like,
I
I've
mean,
nursed our kids, and I do believe that there is, like, the chemical release, like, when you are nursing a baby to, like, help build that bond and, like, those good feelings paired with that, so I do think
Yeah,
you are
I will say
that's the fun way to think about it. And also if it's the same in people, and this is strictly talking about cows, but I will say that it probably translates to humans too. So in cows, whenever you bring cows into the milking parlor, you stimulate the udders, and it causes an oxytocin release within the brain that causes milk letdown, so that then there'll be milk within the teat canals, and then you milk the cow. So I'm assuming it's the same thing with people. So yes, there's
the
what you talked about.
methodology is different, but essentially, yes, what you're talking about is correct.
I mean, I'm talking about literally getting milk or
all
for
all
human consumption.
thinking is
Talk
like
about building a bond by having milk produced from you for a child.
all yes, and we can talk about that in a moment too. But all I'm picturing here is like here's Dr. Meow walking into the dairy farm, rubbing the hands together. All right, let's go. Let's warm these guys up. And
Oh,
then a newborn baby doing the same thing with their mom.
the best story. Just quick side story. When I worked at the dairy farm, my other sister Bailey, you're getting outed with this one. She sends in the group chat when I'm sending pictures of all the cows and everything. She says, "Are all the cows female?" And Steve he sends a text back. He says, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can try to milk a male, but I don't think it'll taste the same." And that defines our other sister. We need to get her on an episode. That'd be a good time.
That it would be wild. It'd be fun, but she'd probably try to make us edit everything and anything out. So I also want to mention that only the little brother can make the something like when she says, "I'm not a cow," and then you started to say something. I'm like, that's dangerous. But the little
Wait,
brother, I
what?
guess, is the only one in the world that can get away with that sort of thing.
I'm
She said,
lost.
your sister said, "Oh, I'm not a cow, but," and then you started to mumble something in the background. I didn't hear what it was, but I'm like, I'm staying out of this conversation completely here. So that's the chemical side. neurologically, we're not going to get too much into it, but there's actual neurological connections being made anytime you learn something, and we would consider that learning that this person equates with love to us to be a learning situation. So there's very likely some neurological connections being made at that time. Also, to mention with the that adrenaline rush type feeling is probably why we associate a bit of kind of feeling ill to our stomach with love as well, because that does tend to have that type of effect. Um, but the behavior side, and it's important to kind of look at this as the full picture, because you wouldn't have the pairing in the same way with the object of your affection and what you consider love and the feelings if it wasn't all these things put, kind of put together. But it very much is kind of a Pavlovian, ring the bell, deliver the food type of pairing. It is, I'm feeling these body feelings, I'm having these thoughts, these verbal behavior that you wouldn't be able to have without having acquired that level of verbal behavior. And it's all being paired with this stimulus, whether it's a person. It's kind of why we say we love cars or other things like that, where it's a much lesser version of that same type of pairing. But it's basically acquiring that person as a very strong reinforcer, but to a level of extreme that is not just a friendship type relationship, at least not like I know friends do love each other, but it's in a different way. And then also with our learning history and verbal behavior, at least in romantic love, there's a pairing of that sexual behavior and those types of ideas and feelings as well, all kind of mixed in there together. And so the interesting thing to me about all of it is without verbal behavior, without the animals, we would still feel these things. We would still feel that attachment to that object of our affection. And I guess that depends again a lot on the species and whether or not, that's why some probably mate for life versus others. It is just the sexual behavior that is reinforcing. But without that verbal behavior, we wouldn't have this idea, the concept of love, but we would still feel those connections as primates do for their young or for their loved ones, and that sort of thing. So love is made up by humans in terms of it being a concept, but the behavior of love exists across many species.
Nice.
Nothing for me there. Nothing.
Seahorses.
Yeah, like I remember being a kid and learning that like the male seahorses were the ones who had the babies, and I just thought that it was like some strange difference in species. And it wasn't until we like I think probably had kids and I was reading a book that I just learned that I know the female actually deposits the eggs in a pouch, and that's why they carry them, not that they're actually having the babies. So it's your seahorse tidbit for the day if you're not aware.
Did you know there's another side note. There's a place in Lansing, a cool pet shop. You can buy seahorses there.
If I didn't think, and here's a hot take, I'm sure someone out there will be offended, probably like my old college roommate who absolutely loved his saltwater fish tank, but I am not a fish person. Just trying to do the upkeep. I'm always killing them. Like I cannot. They don't thrive even if I'm trying to care for them. And seahorses would be very cool, but it not cool enough for me to deal with trying to care for that tank and keep the pH levels correct and all those things.
Yeah, I think fish are. I mean, granted, probably because I just don't have a ton of experience with it, but they're hard to keep alive.
Yes and no. I mean, if you really know what you're doing, I don't think it's that bad. And like when you see the shows, if you're that you don't know what you're doing,
because I don't have experience with it.
I'm just saying, I don't want to just tell people to never own fish. I mean, as far as like animal welfare, it's probably one of the better things because their brains tend to be uh not as developed, and so you're probably not torturing them by having them in a little glass cube instead of out in the ocean where they'll get eaten anyways. But um watching like the show Tank that used to be on Animal Planet, like it was cool watching the design these weird giant tanks. Those people had professionals coming in and caring for those tanks, and I bet that would be kind of nice to see but not have to deal with because they know how to keep them alive. Whereas as a kid, it's like, oh nope, woke up today and that's green in there. How'd that happen? Also birds. I know people love their birds, but the wings flapping around my head when I walk in someone's house, not a fan. It's not for me.
Do you know our parents used to own birds?
I
I
think
think I
it's
did know that.
they just had the one that they were, like, taking care of for someone else.
No, I think they had 2. They had 2 cockatiels.
But yeah, they had Clyde and then they had Rachel.
I
Yeah.
just I remember my aunt and uncle separately, like brother and sister, would grow when I was younger, had birds, and it would always like just fly across the room when you walked in the door and like freak me out, like what just happened. Not a fan.
Yeah, it is cool though, the fact that, like, the if you own an African gray parrot, that those are, like, generational pets. Like, they typically
Is that
Murder
cool?
you, and so you have to go on to your loved ones.
I mean, it's kinda cool. Like, imagine, like, you if I mean, as long as the family consents to it, but, like, you have a parrot that then is going to probably outlive you, that then becomes your child's thing after
That
you.
Yeah,
Mm.
but as you said, if they agree to it, like what are the chances that they can't say no? They're just gonna be like, "Oh, cool.
Oh,
I got
thanks,
this
Nana. Thanks for this parrot.
70-year-old parrot."
Welcome.
Let's just go with like tortoises that way. Like, all right, my great great grandkids are gonna deal with this one day. It won't be my problem.
And just put, like, a taped piece of paper on the back of it that has some just, like, "Have fun with this," like, "You bitch," or something like that, I don't know.
At least the kids could ride them like a tortoise, you know.
Oh, good point, good point.
All right, derailed again. It's Kyle's
Kyle, where
fault.
are you?
Where are you, Kyle? So love for family versus like romantic love. Can you think of like there's obviously a difference, but is it just purely that the romantic, sexual feeling part of it isn't there? You know what I mean? It at least hopefully for in most families anyways, you know. Uh it it seems different, but I don't know that it is any different other than that part being missing, you know?
I think it's
Mm,
mostly the same, like except for like that component of it. Though, like familial love typically also has like a longevity component to it. Like you don't get to pick who your family is for the most part. So there's just like this long history of reinforcement of like doing stuff together, not because you chose to, but just because we as family experienced a lot of like good things together. We bonded together when things did not go well. There's just like that long history of reinforcement across a variety of situations.
well, because do you think also with when it comes to family stuff, where if you're getting into the different, like, relationship types, where altruism versus, like, a more one-on-one type relationship, and I'm blanking on what that would be, because I don't think it'd just be called, like, monogamy. Do you think that plays a role into it?
So scientifically speaking, I think the reason there feels like a difference in terms of longevity is that pairing with your family starts sometimes even before birth, like hearing voices in utero, and then after birth, it's there. It almost feels like a unlearned or unconditioned reinforcer. So it's immediately paired with warmth, care, cuddling, food, all the things that family at least usually provides. Um, and therefore, you have this deep connection to them that it was always there from your earliest memories. It's the same process, I think, as at least as a child or as a newborn. A lot of things that we find as reinforcers later on and generalized reinforcers, such as money, don't mean much or anything to us until you learn that hey, money gets me access to these other things, and then by the time you're an adult, it's just ingrained within you that money is, a reinforcer. It is in and of itself powerful enough to get you to a large number of things, even though you're not thinking about what you're going to use that money for necessarily.
Mhm.
That happens almost at the moment of birth with your family because they're already creating this pairing, and so we know there's a lot of families that don't get along. They don't necessarily even like each other, but they still somewhere deep down usually have some level of love that can even cause some trouble in their, emotional lives because this dichotomy of that doesn't make sense. Why do I care so much about this person that treats me horribly? And that happens in romantic love too, but usually you need a pretty intense pairing early on, or you just have those moral ideals that getting away from a person once you've really agreed to spend your life with them is worse than what you're going through on a daily basis. And so it seems to be quite possible and maybe even easy over time to fall out of romantic love with a person, especially if you find another source of that.
Mhm.
But even if you find someone that you're with and love from their family, you won't have the pairing and learning history for it to be as reinforcing that it just replace your family if something happens to them. You know what I mean?
Do you think
I
there's any,
do
like,
think,
rule-governed behavior with family? Like, I think that's basically what you're getting at, is, like, there's some, like, rule-governed behavior surrounding family that, like, this is my family, and I love them no matter what they do because
yeah,
they are my family.
I think it would exist to an extent without verbal behavior, without being able to follow the rule that you're telling yourself. But I also think that that has a large part, especially going back probably thousands or tens of thousands of years as we start developing language. How do we get the younger generations of our group, our tribe, our family to not turn on us and just take the reinforcements we possess and to go off? We start developing these ideas like blood is thicker than water and these things that I don't know how far back they really go, but it seemingly has been many generations that people have talked and felt that way. Um, Although if you go back to like medieval Europe, there was often brothers killing brothers and children killing fathers to take over the kingdom. So maybe that's a little different. Although they those children were also often raised by the people that were either forced or hired to help those families rather than the families themselves. And so I do think that there is a lot of that societal, it has been shaped as a society and cultural norm to be loyal to your family because it helped
Mhm,
with the survival of the family thousands of years ago.
mhm.
But I still think it would exist without that, if that makes sense.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's even going back to the idea of the altruism, where you know that if you perform these behaviors, it may not directly benefit you as a whole, but it's going to benefit the whole gene pool that it will go on to persist.
Yeah, and I usually think of altruism in terms of thinking about in terms of like a true good, true bad, or right and wrong, and that's ingrained in something natural that is just a universal truth rather than just human verbal behavior. And so
Mhm.
I think what you're saying is the same thing we're saying, except more from a traditional societal like view of it, this being something built with inside of us rather than shaped through our verbal behavior and what we're told growing up and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
well, and the reason I say it like that is because, like, of course, mine is based on animal models primarily, and so then I think it was like going back to undergrad. I think it was like I mean, it's the yellow marmots. They're like a little rodent thing where they have behaviors that they do where they are putting themselves in harm's way potentially, but it will create a benefit for the I don't know what the grouping of a marmot is called, but where it will benefit everyone else, but because they're related to one another, their own genes will go on.
Mhm.
So animal model versus human model where they act much more instinctually rather than us, where it's a lot more what would be the word?
I I do think though that it is still potentially a shaped behavior, even though they don't have the verbal behavior, but it's just learned through the behavior that is shaped by the rest of the community. And
Yeah.
it makes sense if you think of it. So I've said on several episodes that as a species and as a society, particularly in the United States, we're failing the marshmallow test. You know, we are making decisions that in the short term seem best for us individually rather than choosing what is best for society, knowing that if society is doing better, then that is going to affect us positively as well. So if I vote for this person, they're going to give me a tax break. I have more money in my pocket today versus if I vote for this other person, they help the economy as a whole more, and then I can make more money and not have as much debt and not be struggling to make ends meet as much. And that little bit more money I'm saving in my taxes may not matter as much as how I'm doing overall. And so in an animal model, it very could be that those behaviors that help the group have been reinforced. The ones that hurt the group have been kind of singled out, and those individuals that, you know, don't act in the way that's in the best interest of the group aren't allowed to stay in the group. And therefore, it becomes naturally reinforcing to just help the group, but it really is helping you and your survival in the long run as well. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of getting on, I think we touched on it a little bit before, but having children is a completely different experience as well. Like you can't quite understand the love for your children. And like I'm a person that someone hurt my dog, like I'd take him out. You know what I mean? And so I'd always thought like, well, I mean, I'm feeling this extreme love for my pets as well. They're like my children, but the pairing between your actual child and the love you feel is a kind of a completely different animal. You know what I mean? I can't even describe it. And to me, it almost seems along those same lines where maybe it's the chemical release is stronger. It could be a biological factor that the survival of your family unit and your species as a whole is tied to the care of this offspring that needs more care longer term. Therefore, it's an automatic extreme release of more of those chemicals to create this pairing that's stronger, faster. I'm not sure exactly if that is the case, but it almost seems like it because you are basically creating the strongest family type bond without the longevity needing to build that early on. And it is, again, we know there are people that don't get that. And I don't want anybody to think that if you don't have that feeling towards your children, as long as you treat them well, care for them, and give them the best life possible, that it is a bad thing or you're a bad person for not feeling that connection. But for most people, it seems to be that there is that strong connection immediately. And it is likely biological in that it fosters that pairing that is behavioral rather than it being just purely, hey, this is my baby, I love you, the verbal behavior that builds it, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Mhm. Wait, so what's your thought on the when the baby's born, the skin to skin contact?
I believe there's a level of pairing there. I don't know what the actual scientific data say on a child that is put skin to skin versus another. I know that if you are creating your body warmth is creating warmth for that child who has just been born in like bright lights, cold, all these things, and you're providing a level of comfort, that pairing should start very quickly there. But as I mentioned before, in utero, hearing their voices, and you're also already getting the nutrients and the warmth and all those things, that pairing starts even before the moment of birth. And so I don't think it is an emergency that you need to immediately go skin to skin as soon as the baby is born. I don't think that hurts that connection if you cannot do that because of a medical issue or something else. But it certainly can help build that pairing quickly if you are able to do that.
Did you do it?
I believe for yeah, Taylor definitely did with our first. The second one I think was a slight delay because of making sure Taylor was good to go or something like that. I can't remember.
I know I did it with both of them, like, pretty quickly
Yeah.
after they were born,
No, I
though.
mean you, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
think it was right away. I think it was, like, once we were in, like, the recovery room, but I know you definitely did it with both of them.
I did it, and that is like the again, to use the word a second time, the dichotomy of me is to societal behavior and societal norms and things I see and have to deal with in like external or in emergency situations. I am very like, objective to the fact how do we handle this situation. But with our family, with the boys, I'm not like that at all. Like nothing makes me happier than one little boy sitting up with my arm around him and he always like yanks it back around if I try to scratch my nose or something, and the other just laying on my lap. You know what I mean? Like that's about as good as it gets to me. And so even though I don't seem to experience emotions at least outwardly as much, they are definitely there.
You just shove those into a deep, dark place.
Yeah, just it's buried
I
very
mean, even
deeply
when
in
they
there.
were born, though, I don't you weren't super emotional.
No, when they were born, it's kind of
You're
a scary
stressed.
experience. Like I'm just like waiting for that first cry to know that everything's okay. It was stressful. I had to wait for the adrenaline to calm down. I needed to be able to be present in the moment rather than reactionary and ready to do whatever I had to do to I know obviously I'm not equipped to save the day in a medical setting, but it feels like that. Like you just have to be ready to do whatever I have to do to make this okay. And then once it's okay, then I got to experience it. But it was not, probably took an hour or two to really be able to calm down and experience those emotions. I was just ready to act. I didn't know what that action was though.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here.
Yeah. I think like when they let you go over and like help with the measuring and do like some of those things with the babies, it helps put you in the moment rather than you're like, and feels like as the dad you're doing something, but there's nothing you can do.
Sounds like a little participation award that some people enjoy getting.
Yep. I'm all about the participation award. At least I didn't
Hey,
pass out.
some people just need it to feel important when in reality they're not.
There's very good chance that somewhere in my house there's like a bowling trophy for just participating in the league
Just
as like
like
a
we're in the
4
league.
or 5-year-old. Yeah. I remember getting it. I'm like, this is obviously just cheap plastic. What the hell's going on? I thought I was going to get some nice thing here.
Like a
Give me some real
trophy.
metal in this.
Yeah. I need to be
I'm
able to
just
clock
going
an
back to the
intruder.
skin to skin really quick. And it's just a funny thing. I'm just imagining you're just like stripping off all your clothes, and then the doctor's like, "Sir, you don't have to take your pants off too." And you're like one button undone. You're like, "Oh,
Okay.
are you sure?
Because I will.
I
Don't tempt me."
thought we were going full caveman on this. I apologize. I did not get the memo.
All right, what else do we have to talk about, love?
I think we're going to talk about like friend love as well, like the way you
Yeah.
feel towards like close friends, which in thinking more about that, I almost equate like friend love to family love. Like not the love you have for your children and like your family in that way, but the love you feel towards like siblings and things like that.
I mean, that's fair because, I
And
mean, they say that like the good friends are like family, which I mean, I can attest to that. Like, I have quite a few friends that the phrase, give them the shirt off my back.
yeah, good friends are like family. And then I know this isn't like the case for all siblings, but I feel fortunate enough to say like I am friends with all of my siblings as well. So to me, like they feel synonymous.
I'm going to call you out in a moment, but in general, I agree with you. It is very similar. Usually it's a very close friend. It is hard to turn your back on it or not um, kind of continue feeling that way, even if you have a falling out, that sort of thing.
Or like I
I
think
know,
willing to overlook things that like if somebody else did it, you'd be like, this would be a deal breaker. But because we have this long history of pairing and reinforcement, this bond is not so easily damaged.
yeah, I am not to tailor to our kids. I am to like my close family, but I am not an I say I love you type person very much. But you do have those close friends that if they are that type and like you feel that way, I'm more than willing to reciprocate and say it back. It's just like I'm not the one that's usually going around and saying that. But I think your family, you tend to at least tailor more of a saying that to people that you care about,
Oh,
just so it's out there.
we certainly
We're
grew
a
up.
bunch of emotional saps.
Yeah, we definitely grew up in like an I love you house. Like it was every night before bed, usually when you were leaving the house, often like first thing in the morning. It was like that was delivered very freely.
Yeah. Like I do have the few close friends, especially being an only child, that like there's a small group of us that it's like siblings because at least a couple of us didn't have siblings. And so that is something that some say and you reciprocate because you feel that back. But then there's a couple of us that were like, we're not going to go out just saying it to everybody, but it's there, it's that feeling, that pairing is there. It's a long-term, strong connection. It may or may not be exactly like family because it doesn't occur necessarily right there, like starting at birth, but it is very much the same process and an ongoing. And I think that really is what we're coming down to with all this is love, although there is the physiological and neurological activity as well. Behaviorally, it is just a pairing to create reinforcers. And it is this person is a strong reinforcer. And that's why if you have a strong family and loving friend network, if you lose one person, then it is very hard still to lose that source of reinforcement, but it is not always as devastating as, you just have your spouse. You've been married for 60 years. Nobody else is really around or part of your life anymore. You lose them, and we often see the other spouse pass away soon afterwards, just because that is their entire source of reinforcement at that point. And so, although we don't want it to sound like it's not good to love someone that much and rely on someone that much, it can be healthy as long as they want to be that person for you. It is much easier on you if you have a larger social network and have people to rely on and activities you enjoy doing and that sort of thing. I said I was going to call you out, Taylor, and the reason I'm calling you out is because you just said your siblings aren't just your siblings; they're also your friends. So they're family and your friends. How do you
They
feel
do.
about spouses being your best friend, Taylor?
No, I have my best friends, and that is not you. I know that is a hot take. I know there are a lot of people who will say that their spouse is their best friend, but Steve is not my best friend. Steve is my husband, and I love him very much, and what we have is very special, but Steve is not my best friend.
If Bailey and Steve were hanging on a cliff and you can only pick one, you can
No,
only save one of them, who are you
no,
saving?
no, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not
I
making that choice.
I love her too much to make her choose. I would knock Bailey off the cliff so she would save me.
All right, Steve and Leela are dangling. Leela's got
No,
Don't
one
do that.
claw hanging on the rock.
no, do
Who are
not.
you saving?
Okay, that's not even fair because Leela is old,
Whoa,
and Leela
Leela is
doesn't.
a spry young girly.
No, she's not.
The
We
the,
literally
the
thought she was
bit
gonna die last year. No, and also
truthfully,
Leela does not help take care of the children.
that's what I was going to say. That's where it should be. Objective decision. My life is be much harder without here to help me with the kids. I'm sorry, everyone else, you have to go.
Unless they're willing to come on and take on like a co-parent role and help run the business and take the trash out at night.
I will also say that the whole friendship thing, we literally spend all day together. Your office is upstairs, mine is downstairs, but we're in the same house all day long. We're with the kids together all day long. We hang out after they go to bed. And so, regardless of what you say, if that is not also I enjoy spending time with you as if we were friends, then you're full of it, even though you still have your best friends and you're not willing to say that about me. So,
I do enjoy
there
spending
you
time with you. It's never been
hmm
about that. I do enjoy spending time with you, but that classification is for other people, not you.
I
She'd
got
let you
You're
fall.
my husband. I only have one husband.
she'd give me a little push for the life insurance money. Is that what you're saying?
Am I even on the plan?
You are now.
Yeah. But no, I've
Would
told you
that
I am not in a season of life where I would want to be doing any of this alone, so you are safe for a while.
if that were to be the situation, would you still get life insurance because you had the opportunity to save them and you chose not?
Mm,
I mean, it depends on the policy, but I do believe you are still like there is no responsibility to save somebody. You just can't.
I can't be
I
the
don't know.
one.
Maybe you can even murder him, except you'd be in prison, so then you wouldn't get it that way.
I feel like no, because we listen to enough true crime cases where they like the spouse takes out a large life insurance policy on the other one and then
Yeah, but you'd be safe because I had this from before we were married, just in case something happened to me, because my parents had to co-sign on my student loans. So you'd be safe on that one.
right, but I've told you this life is too busy right now with 2 kids. I don't want to do it alone.
All right, we've been at this for about an hour now. Can't make people listen to us too long. We're gonna get into the whole like how do you we are putting in the work to relationship. We hear people talk about that quite a bit, but we can talk about that sort of thing later. It's really just what are your things that you are unwilling to compromise on? What are the things that you can compromise on? Taylor and I were talking about how we're both very persnickety, very picky about things, but because we're often picky about opposite things, we rarely argue about those things. And so it works well that way. And when we do argue, we just end up sitting down and like, analyzing behavior analytically and talking about motivating operations and discriminative stimuli, which works well for us, but I imagine that would not work for someone who is not married to a behavior analyst. So uh, we'll have to look at those things another time if it comes around again. We'll see. But I don't know. Any other thoughts or suggestions, or I don't know, Dr. Man, how can we help your love life here before we sign off?
Can't. It's an endless void.
I'll just keep adding to the list.
Yeah. All right, Steve, I want you to end this episode with telling our viewers and listeners that you love them.
I don't know them necessarily. So if I know
Well, you
you and I
don't
love
care
you, then I
about our
love you.
followers.
Listen, I hope as in general, as humanity, individually do well. But there's a difference between someone I know as a reinforcer that I am going to go out of my way to help. And I would do that for a stranger in most situations, to go out of my way to help them out if I can see them on the street struggling or something like that. But I'm not going to lie to people and say that I just love them when I don't know them. It's not,
Not who
that is
he
a
is.
It's
blatant
called
lie. And
unconditional.
that is how you get stalkers, Dr. Meow Meow.
Maybe that's what he wants.
That's
Yeah,
not.
he wants to take me out so he can take over, be the doc, and the doc analyzes anything, huh?
Well, it took me this long to get recognized as a doctor.
I called you Dr. Meow Meow several times, and I would think people would know as a veterinarian you have to have a doctorate, but who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just faking it.
I'm a fraud.
Yeah. Could be.
Probably.
I don't know. Now that it's out there that you're looking for love on the podcast, who knows? Maybe
Oh,
someone
we've
will
called him
slide
out
into-
several times, so.
Maybe this is the one where someone will slide into the DMs.
Yeah, this is a big move from all of our listeners, all 10 of them.
The problem is I'm the one who would get those messages, and so would I notice them in time for it to be worthwhile, or
No, 'cause you
would
don't
he
know
have
what to
waited
do.
too long and now been stuck in the friend zone, because of the game?
2 months after the initial message was sent, I get it from you. Hey, this was sent a while back. Here you go.
So I think that's it. I've got meetings to do and things to see and things like that. So we'll just end it on the note we always do. Even if you are out there searching for love on this Valentine's Day week, eve, whatever Kyle gets this out to the masses, just remember there's always someone out there, even if it's not the person, like we said, but there are many people out there that you would be compatible with, that you could have a good life with. Just trying to put yourself out there and making sure that you're doing so in a way that the expectations are known by all parties is my recommendation. Look to the bright side. Enjoy the love you see in others, or not if it's annoying. And just try to find the joys in life, the little ones, wherever you can find them, because you never know when you see that person that you've always been waiting for and the adrenaline hits, and then just heart attack and you're gone. So be careful out there and enjoy the world, enjoy life.